Hello everybody, and welcome back to Mr. Miller's Art Room. Today we're going to be talking about one of the things that I think is most important when it comes to illustrating, drawing, and art in general, and that is overlapping shapes. In previous videos we talked about how we needed to utilize a variety of different lines in order to create shapes. Now these are geometric shapes, but not all shapes are geometric. Some of them are organic. Organic shapes are shapes that don't really have any real name to them or regularity. They're not easily divisible and divided symmetrically. And they look almost like a jigsaw puzzle piece or a cell, like a microscopic cell. Nevertheless, a shape is not a shape until the lines connect back together and we have an inside and an outside part of the shape. It's a two-dimensional idea. Even though shapes are two-dimensional and they are clearly flat on the paper, we can use our skills as an artist in order to create the illusion that there is space on this paper. I might use the example of these blocks that I have here. These blocks are not shapes. These are forms. These forms exist in real space. One block can be in front of the other, and one block can be very much closer to the camera and seem much larger than the block behind it. If I put one block in front of the other, we lose sight of the block that's here, and we can see very clearly this block in front. I'm going to show you how we can make it look like these shapes are actually in front and behind of one another in order to create the illusion or the magical concept that there's space on this flat, two-dimensional piece of paper. The best way I think to describe this isn't showing you a good example of an overlapping shape, but to show you a poor one. So let's say that I have two squares, and I want to make one square look like it's in front of the other. Very often, what young artists will do is they'll draw their square, and then the next square they draw behind it will actually crisscross the lines like so. The problem is right here. This crisscrossing lines makes everything look really flat. It does not give the illusion that one shape is in front of the other. What we want to do instead is first draw the shape that we want. Then, instead of drawing through this shape, what I'm going to do is use my imagination and my hand control by starting on the line of the shape, continuing on the edge of the other shape that I'm drawing, which happens to be a square. And then when I come back up here, instead of drawing through it, I'm going to stop when I touch the line. In this way, now we have something that looks like this square being in front of this square. What most people don't understand about art is the art isn't really happening on the paper. The art is happening in your mind. Your mind's eye is actually connecting these dots right here. I'm using this green Sharpie to show you what you're actually seeing. Because we have real life experience of objects in real life being in front of another, and understanding that we can't see the object behind the other object if it's completely opaque, well, that lets us see this very simple concept. We can use what we know about the real world and mimic it on the paper. We can also use other shapes for this very purpose. Sometimes what we want to do is use a different shape like a triangle. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pretend to draw. I find this method a really good way of figuring out where I want my lines, much in the same way that a golfer might practice his swing before he actually hits the ball. I might draw across here, and then if I like what I'm doing, then I'll put my pen down, stop when I hit the line, pretend to draw. Notice that your brain almost can see the line, but I'm not putting a line there. Then I'll put my pen back down where it would have naturally come back through the other way, and then I'll come over here and finish out my triangle. You can do the same thing with multiple shapes. So maybe I'm going to put a circle that's going to look like it's behind this square and this triangle. First, what I want to do is practice my circle to make sure that I'm not going to touch any of the corners or the edges. I'm going to talk about that concept in just a moment. Once I'm happy with where I'm going with this, then I'm going to put my pen back down, curve my pen mark, and then stop when I hit the edge. If I were to have continued it, you would have seen the line that would go through here, but I don't want to do that. One of the other common mistakes is utilizing something called a tangent. A tangent, I'm used to it in comic books. What it refers to is when a shape contacts the edge or corner of another shape, creating a sort of focal point that you don't necessarily want. In this particular case, it will keep us from making our shapes look like they're in front of one another. For instance, if instead I were to put my other square right here, and I'd stop it and have it there, well, this might be good for some pieces of artwork, but this does not make an effective illusion of space. Another example of a tangent would be if I were to make a circle here, but it just hits the corner of this shape. Also, this might be good for something, but it's not good for creating an illusion of overlapping shapes. Now for your assignment. What I'd like everybody to do is start with a pencil and have an eraser nearby. I would like you to draw 20 overlapping shapes all on one single page. Try to change the size of the shapes all throughout the composition. After you're done drawing with the pencil, then you're going to get to utilize the pen to draw on top. Using a pencil in this way, you can get away with some light touches of crisscrossing shapes to draw through the area just in case you need the help. Another thing you can do is draw very lightly with a very light touch with the pencil on the paper. Then, when you know the shape is good to go, you can draw a little bit harder to make sure that you know that these are the lines that you want. When you're trying to draw overlapping shapes and you want to make sure that it looks really good, if you have a situation right here like this, where this triangle and this rectangle would be over top of the triangle that I just drew, you can use the pencil and lightly draw through to make sure that you have the angle correct. But you want to also remember that we would be able to see this bit of the lower triangle once you've completed all 20 shapes, and you don't have to do anything super complicated. What you want to do then is just use your eraser to clean up some of these ghosted lines, just to make sure you don't get confused, because the next step is to use this pen to trace the lines that you drew. When you're tracing lines like this, it's also known as inking, though don't tell a comic book artist I said tracing. What's best is if you have a hard time moving your hand in a particular fashion, don't be afraid to turn the paper, especially for these straight lines. Turn the paper, draw the line, turn the paper, draw the line. After you've done all the main lines, you're going to take your eraser, hold the paper at the bottom, and when you erase, you push away from yourself. That way you don't accidentally crinkle or pull the paper. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe, because I'm going to have another video coming up talking about another way we can make this even more dramatic with creating space utilizing drop shadows. And I'd like to hear from you. If you actually worked on one of these and tried it out, I'd like to hear from you in the comments section. Let me know how it did and how you liked it. Thank you all very much for checking out Mr. Miller's Art Room. Good day.